Some they call it functional alcoholism, but if you know anything about Ben, he's got vision with precision, microphones and a tinkle of derision. You're about to hear what beer can be. It's time for Barley and Me.
All right, so we were getting into a pretty deep fight about what beer is now and how we got here.
Yeah, we're now back behind the old bike racks, so it's time to throw down.
Yep.
All right,
we're here. Like let's face it, beer is here because of hops. So we got all these hops behind us.
Yes.
How did we get here? What have you guys done with hops over the years?
Well, we put this hop field in. I'm gonna have to go back a little bit. I got to say, 12, 13 years ago or so, we put this hop field in. And of course, this area is not the greatest for growing hops, so it took us quite a long time to kind of figure out what grows the best. We actually have a little farm off from here, about 5 minutes away from here, that is close to a little stream, and it's a little cooler, and it actually helps a little bit because it gets really hot in Chico.
You must have to have a lot of water for them.
A lot of water for them. And our other farm is literally close to the Sacramento River, so we get a little bit of water that we can use there. But it's definitely a challenge around here, but we also use it. We use it for the beer we're actually drinking right now, which is the Farmhouse Estate Ale, and this is actually a beer that we make with grain that we grow, and we actually have it malted by Admiral Malting down there in Alameda. So they actually malt.
Doing great things.
That's awesome. So they malt all the grain for us. We have the hops that are local. We actually used we took some wort out to one of the peach farms around town. South of town, and we actually did a spontaneous fermentation with it, and then aged it in organic barrels. So this is our only 100% organic beer that we make. We also do make a IPA that we serve in our pub, but that's very limited release, and this is limited as well. But it's just something kind of really fun that really speaks to Chico and Butte County, and
I love that the estate's always different every year. Kind of like what is the world providing you right now to drink?
Yep. Yeah. And that's Judy can probably definitely agree with this. Is like farmers and farming is what brings us beer, food, life, and love.
That's right. That's right.
We owe everything to our farmers.
I grew up on a dairy farm, and I look back at that now. We homogenize and pasteurize our own milk and bottle it, and I'm thinking, wow, we could have had a brewery. I should have talked Dad into that, but I was only 5, so it didn't work.
Well, and brewing wasn't really a thing at the time.
No,
It is now. It is now.
But so as far as like Sierra Nevada innovating what beer is by producing that pale ale, and then always recreating what's going to be next, we've got the Torpedo. Design, the Hop Hunter with the hop oil extract.
Yes.
Very interesting.
The estate, obviously, like what you can get locally grown, like in your own backyard.
Right.
So many things, and then you've got
the hop back.
Early days. Ken, was one of probably the first brewers around that was using hop backs and using hops aggressively.
Yes.
Nowadays we do have hazy little thing. We did jump on a little bit of a bandwagon of our East Coast brethren that started creating hazy beers, but I think this is one of the first hazies that was distributed nationwide. And it's one of my new favorite beers. I think Judy and I were kind of chatting a little bit about hazy beers, and it's amazing because I find myself early on when they first came out, and I'm a traditional brewer, and that's what I was trained on. And when you saw a hazy beer, if it wasn't a Hefeweizen, you kind of turn the other way, right?
And, when we were first judging, we go, oops, something's wrong with that one.
Yeah, right. and nowadays, just that yeast character holds so much of the hop flavor. It's just really, it's got a little sweetness. So I look at myself of 3 years ago, if I opened up that beer and our hazy little thing and looked at it, I would pass it up. Nowadays I'm inclined to try it, and because they are so flavorful, and they're very, I think, welcoming to a new palate and a new drinker.
That's right. And can I interject something here?
Absolutely.
When I received my Founders Award at the California State Fair, one of the things I was talking to all the brewers, and one of the things I said to them is, I know there's a lot of purists out there, I can name a few, that will never brew a hazy beer, right? Because they're a purist. Well, I understand that very well, but let me tell you something. What I'm most impressed about brewers is how innovative they are. They're like the Michelin chef of brewing. And the whole thing about brewing is coming up with new recipes. And that's what energizes brewers. Yeah, they want to do that. They want to come up with new things. And let me tell you what, back in the day when I first started, thanks to Sierra Nevada, Pale Ale, Porter, Stout. Those were the three styles that we first were introduced to, and what was brand new. And that's what I judged at all the beer competitions. And back then, let me tell you what, all you IPA drinkers, when IPA came out, and if I would have said, no, I'm going to be a traditionalist, I'll never serve an IPA at Lyons Brewery, wouldn't that have been such a loss?
Yes.
So stay open and try whatever new is coming out.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And, the way IPAs have changed and the bitterness going down and making them, and that's where I feel like they're more approachable. They're more drinkable by a wider variety of consumer.
Yes,
and
which will bring more beer drinkers to you.
Right. And it only feeds our industry, allows us to make more beers, make more innovative beers. So great point, Judy. That is absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, I love that thing about beer is that it's very innovative. It's always something new. And you guys have helped push that. People always think Sierra Nevada is, pale ale, and they haven't done anything to innovate. And you just look at the history, and that's absolutely a lie. Right. It's a misunderstanding. Let's call it a misunderstanding.
Yeah, the torpedo. I mean, that's one for me that was, I started here in '94, and we started making torpedo. Well, we distributed it nationally about 10 years ago. This year will be 10-year anniversary of the release of torpedo. But we started working on that early on, and that was one of the fun things of my early part of my career. Right. Made me really proud of kind of literally something that went from a napkin in our tap room that Ken had drawn on a piece of paper to, okay, let's just try to do this. And of course we tell the story, it failed miserably the first year of trying to actually get a amount of beer pushed through a bed of hops back into the same tank. We just couldn't get it to work. And then we just kept plugging away. And as Ken has always said, where there's a will, there's a way. And I'm going to give you guys the resources you need to make something happen. Awesome. And that's kind of nose to the grindstone until we get it going.
Back in the day, you did it with Celebration Ale. I'll never forget the release of Celebration Ale.
Okay. So Judy, I did a little interview with Ken just recently, and he was saying that no, we didn't use Celebration recipe, and of course I dug up an old recipe and I showed him that actually the first versions were a type of Celebration, so that we knew if it was working right, whether it would taste kind of like Celebration Ale. And then of course when we came out with Torpedo as a brand, we changed the recipe at that point. Right. But the early versions of it was us trying to mimic Celebration Ale to develop the Torpedo process. So
right. Yeah. You would know that taste anywhere. So you're like, what will it be as we push more through it? How's it changed? We'll know it changed. Right. And we'll know what this process is actually doing for our beer.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep. And that's actually one of my funnest parts of my job is actually knowing our brands and knowing what to expect, whether it was back in those days with Celebration Ale or even today with, every single pale ale that we're trying, knowing that what it's supposed to taste like and what the flavor profile is supposed to be like. So
yeah, that's great.
Yeah. All right, guys. I think we're getting a little bit hot here.
Yes, it's warm. It's Chico. So it's April in Chico, and it's 90 degrees today.
Can we toast to the hop fields?
Oh, for sure.
Yes, absolutely.
With the estate beer, it's amazing. Yes. Gosh, tastes wonderful. Cheers,
so good,
everybody.
Take it inside. Cool down.